Welcome into the Backroads Bill Podcast. I'm Ben, and on this episode, we are going to be talking about something that in olden times might be seen as magic. But today, with how we know science, we actually can explain why this happens. And what we're talking about are what are called fire rocks, which are these rocks that happen naturally in the world that, when exposed to a very specific type of UV light, they illuminate and they create these beautiful, beautiful patterns. So we brought in an expert, Ray, who, I don't know if you'd call him an expert. He is a hobbyist, but I would say he's a pretty good expert. He's our resident expert is what we'll call him, as he actually demonstrates how these rocks work and really educates us on why it works and where we can find them and how he stumbled upon them in the first place. So if you are an audio listener, I highly suggest checking out the video version just to see what these rocks look like and how they work by going over to the North Bay Echo YouTube channel, or you can check us out on socials at North Bay Echo, in which case I'm also going to put together a little short clip. One of our shorts for this week's episode will also have it as well. So if you're an audio listener, make sure to go check it out to see the visual. You can also Google it, but the demonstration Ray does is really neat. So we're going to get to that, but first, a word from today's title sponsor, Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay.
North Bay's turning 100, and what a time to be here. From the buzz of the Heritage Parade to sunset concerts at the waterfront, the city is alive with celebration. And you know who's right in the middle of it all? Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. We're proud to be a part of this milestone moment. Whether you're coming home from a family reunion, planning a gathering with friends, or just simply making the most of everything the Centennial has to offer, our doors are open. Stay in a spacious suite that feels like home, with a full kitchen to cook in, room to relax, and a space to unwind after a full day of fun. Are you hosting something bigger? Our event spaces and amazing local partners like the Grand and Stock Transportation make it easy to bring people together. Best of all, they're just steps from the action. The fireworks, the food trucks, the music, the laughter, it's all right here. Celebrate 100 years of North Bay with us. Use code Centennial to save on your stay anytime this year. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West or give us a call at 705-495-3000.
So we have today a very unique and really neat story. We are pleased to be joined today by Ray Gionet, who is the volunteer curator of the Schreiber Discovery Center and Rail Museum. Ray, welcome into the Backroads Bill Podcast. Thanks,
Ben. Great to be here.
You know, Ben and Ray, and I've got to say a couple things right off the hop, right? This is going to be an illuminating kind of story, and we could do the rock star and effervescence kind of thing, but he's kind of one of these spark plugs. He's a Backroads Bill spark plug with that Terrace Bay, Rossport, Schreiber area. He's 37 years with Bell, came to Schreiber in 1980. And you know, we're going to talk a lot about the fire rocks, but I really recommend to people to go to the Schreiber Discovery Center and Rail Museum. It's one of the best small town museums in Northern Ontario, and there's reasons for that. And one of the reasons is Ray and the other volunteers in the area that have made it so. But let's get down to the Yooperlites and things like that. And the first question, Ray, is, you know, we'll ease into this. Tell us about what Yooperlites are.
Yooperlites were just discovered in 2017, and so it's a really new discovery, and it's really catching quick. It's a rock that it's a cyanide rock, and it has sodalite inside the rock. And the only way you can find this rock is you have to go after dark. And you bring a UV light, and we go hunting for them. And when you found them, it's quite the experience. You find a rock, it looks like it's on fire, like lava.
Yeah, and you know what, Ben? and because we've got the technology, this might be the time, because Ray's going to do this for us. Let's have one of we might do two demonstrations. Let's just show it what this looks like right now, Ray. And as you turn off the light, I'll just say to Ben, this, in my story when I wrote it, I said next to Sasquatch, what some of the things I've seen on the Backroads, but now move over Sasquatch, because these fire rocks, and here we go. Oh, wow. That's crazy. And then turn the light away from it, Ray. Just plain ordinary rock, or what you might think. And let's do that a couple of times. And we've got another specimen there as well. The first time I saw this, Ben, was at the Schreiber Discovery Center and Rail Museum. They have a rock there, and Ray did the same. Look at that. That's and for the viewers and listeners, this is way better than TV. And as I said, Sasquatch, move over. You want to see these fire rocks out in the Backroads. Okay, let's get back to the story at hand in the Backroads Bill podcast, as Ray goes on, and he's going to go back to the air chair. And so,
for our audio listeners, by the way, you probably want to check out just the video part of this, so you have any sort of clue of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
here.
Exactly. And then, Ray, let's just transition to how you got interested in this.
Well, I seen it on the internet, and it really intrigued me. They were showing these fire rocks that they were finding in the States, and they were finding in Lake Superior. So I had discussed it with my daughter. She was away at college, and she said, that'd be neat to go look for. And I thought, yeah, if they're in Lake Superior, they got to be in our area. So I ordered black lights, of course, not knowing the proper type of black light. Ordered regular black lights, and when she returned from college, we went down our local beach. And just as we got to the beach, we hadn't even made the beach area yet. She turns on her black light to make sure it's working, and she's right on a Yooperlite. And the excitement and it was this the one we found. And the excitement, it was really neat to find it. And her comment was, we forgot to bring a bag to say that we were going to carry it. And then we spent the next 3 hours walking the beach. And again, we're doing this, and it's pitch black out, and we never found any more. That was the only one. So that was our first introduction.
Wow, and that's at the Schreiber Beach. Now, and of course, over just to the east is Pebble Beach at Marathon. There's rocks there as well.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, and we're going to get into this where these rocks are found, Ben. But when they light up, and Ray's described them, it is looks like lava, and it looks like that color when you let your fire go down and you just see the coals, the embers, and those kinds of things. And of course, and when you find them in the water, which we did, we'll talk about that experience. They have a different kind of color as well. It changes, but to see them from, okay, these are just ordinary rocks, and then you shine that black light on it, and they just wow, this is a whole another aspect of rock hounding that I think people are going to be really interested in. So at the museum, you show people this very demonstration, don't you?
Yeah, I have the sample there at the museum, and the response I get from people that have never seen it, and even from the actual people that love searching Yooperlites. It's incredible. I remember I had a grandfather and his grandson come in. They were going across Canada, and they were into rocks. And when I showed them that rock, the two of them, their eyes lit up, and they were so excited, and then they left the museum. So approximately an hour later, he returned back, and he goes, how much for the rock? He said, my grandson and myself can't stop talking about the rock. So it was a small chunk I had there. So I slid it over to him. I said, you can have it. And he says, no, I'll pay you. I said, no. I says, you take this. I says, guaranteed that'll remind you of your trip with your grandson, and anytime he looks at that rock, he'll remember your trip. So they're quite happy. I have a lot of time people coming in trying to buy my sample that's there at the museum, but I don't sell the rocks. To me, it's the fun, and as well, Bill, like you were like a kid when we first started teasing you on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ben, I got to tell you, see that rock there? And for those on audio, there's a rock that when I saw that, I said I was amazed, and I still am to this day. And every time at home now, because I'm the recipient of finding some, and Ray gave me some others on our trip out. I've shown people this. And Ray, one of the chunks, I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to be officiant at a kind of a Jewish hybrid wedding in a couple weeks, and I'm going to give one of them because the couple are into rocks and this solid relationship. I've ordered a couple more black lights. I'll keep another one for my own purpose, but I'm going to give them the black light and a rock as a present. The same act of kindness. But when I saw that, I said I'll be back, and sure enough, weeks later I came back, and we're going to get now into the experience that we had, Ben. But do you have a question right now, Ben? Right off the top here about this whole. That's mesmerizing.
I don't know if it's a question or it's an observation. So what I find really cool about this is that it's my favorite part of science. So you have science is kind of split up into like the fun, exciting parts where you actually get to visually see how things interact with each other. It's like chemistry class. If you see people, I remember like the elephant trunk one where I don't know. I'm not a science person, but you put in. I don't remember the chemicals, but you put them together and they kind of like blow up. It's stuff like that, or you see people like light something on fire or something like that, and you're seeing different effects of stuff in real life. And I find that more fascinating than sitting down and doing the math or the chemistry part of it. But it gets you interested, and I think that's what I like about this stuff is that you can come in and show somebody like, hey, this is how these different things interact with each other, right? From like a scientific standpoint, and then you can learn why it does that, and it gets you it's a gateway into learning.
Well, that's the pedagogy of teaching, and it is an experiential demonstrations. And so that's what intrigued me. I could see it from an educational point of view, but just from a wow point of view. So I come back to the area, in that beautiful area of Lake Superior between Marathon and Rossport, with Terrace Bay and Scriber in between, and we meet Ray with a couple of new transplants in the Scriber area, and Ray will describe them. And we go out, we meet after dark, because you have to meet after dark. But tell us where we first went to, Ray, because the neophytes too were when they first saw it, they thought it was pretty neat too.
Yeah, well, the whole trip we kind of did it actually really well, because we first visited an area where there was a lot of gravel and stone, and our walk to the main pile. We shot down on the road, and lo and behold, there was Yooperlites all along the road. And I mean, to see the excitement between you and Pat and Dan, I mean, you guys were like kids. You were finding them all over the place. And then to get to the actual rock pile and find the bigger specimens, you guys were quite excited. And that was just the start of the journey.
Yeah, that was just the start of the journey. And it was a backroads pit. And funny, just before, in the daytime, so Ray said we're going to meet at a certain area. And like always, I drive the back road. So I went out there just to see where we might be going. And just by happenstance, there's a guy back there. He's picking mushrooms. He was from Marathon. You know him. And he's just got into Yooperlites too. And it was going to go, in fact, he told me fast forward, going to go along the coastline, because it's called the Coldwell Complex, Ben, in geologic terms, and with the cyanite and the sodalite in there, there's only certain areas at surface that you might find it. But since then, I've talked to a geologist who said, you know what, because of the glaciers, you could probably find this anywhere in Ontario, Northern Ontario, I should say, because there's you can find it over that Bancroft area too, in Eastern Ontario. So there are other areas. And so that was the exciting part. I thought, wow. And I've been turning my light on from time to time. But anyway, where did we go next after the gravel pit?
Well, we continue on down the highway, and we stopped at a location where there was recent construction done. And that particular spot, I figured, had a really good opportunity that they might have actually brought some Yooperlite to that site. And lo and behold, from searching the area, found one rock. So we had stopped there, as you well know, and didn't find it right away because I never marked where it was. And lo and behold, Pat finds, he says, I think I found it. And it's a massive rock. It wasn't something that's going to disappear. So it's really neat. It's a fine example of a Yooperlite.
Yeah, and just for the listeners and the viewers, if you want to see some amazing photos and video, just go Google Backroads Bill, Village Media, Yooperlites, or Fire Rocks, and the story will come up. And so seeing these at that spot, and of course, the mystery continues. You think, where was the pit where this dumped rock was under this bridge construction site? Where did it come from? Unknown, of course. And then we transition to a rock cut. And Ray will describe the rock cut, but he'll also tell us a story about where he's discovered people looking for them from time to time, and and of course Ray will have to call him the Fire Rock Guide, right? Not God, but guide.
Yeah, no, that the rock cut is actually quite amazing. I heard about it from a retired OPP officer, and I heard him talking to someone, and he mentioned Yooperlite. And I piped in Yooperlite, as in he had my interest right away. He says, oh, you know about Yooperlites? I says, oh, yeah. He says, well, I'm going to tell you a story. He says, I come upon the highway, and there was a couple of vehicles pulled over, and they had their lights on, and their lights were flashing, and they had flashlights out, and I thought something was wrong, so I pulled over to make sure everything was all right. So when he approached them, it was a university that was studying the rock. So they lit the rock cut up with UV lights, and he said the whole rock cut lit up. He says it was like gold. And I thought, well, that's neat. So he gave me an approximate area where it was, so I didn't know where it was. So my friend was in town, and Andy, his last name, forgive me, is Kaknavicius. And Lyle Nickel was down with them. So they were in town, and Andy does a lot of film work, so he comes down and creates some content down here. So I said to him, I said, how would you like to come out Yooperlite hunting? So what's that all about? I says, well, we go out and look for rocks, and they light up with black lights. So he said, yeah, sure. So he got a hold of Lyle, who was with him, and Lyle said, yeah, I'll go. So Lyle was making fun of us. We're driving out, and it's pitch black out, and he's making fun of these three old guys who are heading out looking for shiny rocks at midnight. So what I did was I got them to hang out the window of the truck. Andy was in the front seat, and he had the window down, and Lyle was in the back, and they had the flashlights. So as I'm cruising slowly down, scanning the rock cuts, I said, when you see it, you'll know. Just tell me to stop. So as we're moving along, all of a sudden the two of them at the same time yelled, stop. Well, I hadn't even got the truck stopped. The doors were open. They were out the door. They bailed out. I parked the truck, I come back, and they were just standing in awe looking at this rock. And when I turned my light on there too, it was unbelievable. Just got goosebumps looking at this rock structure. It was totally amazing.
Yeah, Ben, and you know what? It is in awe and goosebumps, because even thinking about it, because it's not like anything I've ever seen, and especially I like this aspect. I mean, I've done lots of wolf howling, and we've talked about that and wolves, but being out at night and finding these things is just incredible. Then Ray, you took us to a secret spot, which we can't describe, but the secret spot in the water. You can tell us about that one.
Where's the secret spot, Bill?
Well, yeah, no, it's on the back road somewhere.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
Yeah, no, we had seen photographs of Yooperlites in water, and it was apparently close to the site. Good friend Rick Main, he's a professional photographer, and he's also a Yooperlite nut. And we got together just because of the fact he's seen my post on the big rock cut. So Rick had told me, he says, if you share your spot, I'll share a spot. So that's how we became friends. So we both ended up with new Yooperlite locations. So Rick had got a hold of the main photographer that took a picture of the actual rocks and asked for where the approximate location was. So we went to that location the day, we scouted out in the day, just to make sure the territory was safe, because as Bill well knows, it's pitch black. You're working in darkness and you got to be very careful. So we went to scout out the area to make sure that we wouldn't get hurt going in there. We had our black lights with us and we looked in the area where it was supposed to be. We found nothing. So we contacted the photographer and he said, no, you're in the right spot. So Rick hadn't returned yet. And that night with Bill and Dan and Pat, I said to them, we still got a little bit of time. Do you want to see if the rocks are in the creek? So they said, yeah, sure. So away we went. And sure enough, when we got to the creek, there were the rocks. And it, to me, was a totally new experience. And like Bill, you know, that water glowing with the black light and that rock, it was wow.
Dear North Bay, you've always been more than a place on the map. You're home to me. This is where I built a life with my husband, raised our kids, and taught in local schools for over 24 years. I'm proud to be part of this community. Earlier this year, my world shifted. After living with anxiety, depression, and PTSD for much of my life, I reached a point where I couldn't keep going alone. Walking into the emergency department at the North Bay Regional Health Center was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But what I found there changed everything. A nurse who made me feel safe, a crisis worker who truly listened. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. That care gave me hope, and it inspired me to give back by supporting local healthcare so that others in our community can access the same compassionate care I did. If my story resonates with you, I hope you'll consider supporting the NBRHC Foundation. Please visit nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125 to give. Because mental health is health. With gratitude, Tiffany Van Meer.
It's almost that time of year. Early mornings at the rink, fresh notebooks and backpacks, and a community gearing up for another great season of varsity sports. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of it all. Whether it's finding your kid's first pair of skates, gearing up for tryouts, or outfitting your team for the season ahead, we've got you covered. Because here, we're not just a sports store, we're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to cheer you on every shift, step, and stride of the way. Visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street and let us help you along your way.
I described it in the story, Ben, something like, that we should pull up to the creek and like Troll, you turn your camping headlights on, you go down the bank, and there's a small bridge there, and you make the transition. You turn off your lights, your camping lights, and then turn on the black lights and start panning back and forth. And Pat and Dan, I don't know, whoever discovered it, and some neat shots too. You turn you see them, and with the water, it's like a totally different. It's like a painting in the landscape in behind it. It really, really, really provides a kind of a bracket or a frame for this in the water, and then you turn your black light off and try to take a picture with your camping light, and it's just like it is right here on the screen, an ordinary rock. So that in itself was one of those bonus experiences on the Backroads. So you had a question, Ben.
Yeah, it's the one thing that goes through my head is it kind of is unfortunate that there's no, outside of using a black light, like you're not going to see this in the real world.
Right.
And I was like, it'd be cool if they made a bowling ball out of it, because you know how they have the UV lights in the bowling alley and stuff. Yeah. But I was just thinking, like, how can we do something that lets you see these not in a very specific situation? You know what I mean? Like, how do we show these off without having to have a UV light, or what place could they be in?
Well, I think the answer is you can't do it anyway. Hey, but by the way, show us the skull too. Well, we've got that right here now, and this is from You can tell us where you got the skull, because it is a skull, but Ray's going to turn the lights on.
I seen this. It was on Amazon, and I don't know whether you can see it.
Yeah,
good,
you can. Yep, perfect.
That also gives me the idea, though, is now is that just a Yooperlite or like a rock that they carved out?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like, because I'm sure you could probably manufacture this as well if it just.
You mean like artificial diamonds and things?
Yeah,
I hope not.
like,
I really hope not.
You know what? Like, obviously, these are naturally occurring, but I'm sure that science is at that point. But
Sure.
I'm not shocked that exists, and I'm kind of curious how it's not more popular. Like the idea of having not just a rock, but like actually something shaped as something else. I don't know, Ray, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, actually, there is jewelry. I had a lady stop in at the museum, and when she heard about the Yooperlite, she says, I got a Yooperlite bracelet. And she held up her bracelet, and sure enough, we lit it up. It looked like regular stones all the way around, and it glowed. So they're starting to make jewelry with it. My vision of it would be neat to grab an aquarium and get like neon fish, all the fish that reflect UV light, and then put the rocks in the bottom of the aquarium. So it'd be like they're floating on lava, like it, that or...
Yeah, you put UV lights at the top.
Yeah, no, I can visual. But you're going to try to do something in your backyard garden, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to, I'm working on my house right now, and then once I get the deck going, I'm going to create a waterfall and do the Yooperlites in the waterfall. And I've got some 110 volt UV lights. So it'll light up the waterfalls at night. So you'll actually see, look like, the glowing rocks at night.
People will come from near and afar, but actually maybe you should put something like that in front of the museum, right? Or the town should pay for that. People would stop like...
That's what I'm talking about, though. Those kind of things where it's like, how do you use these really cool, like, naturally occurring rocks in these neat and creative ways.
Now you're thinking as per usual.
We need to get
thinking for sure way out of the box.
What about the Ecology Center?
Well, maybe, but the Scriber is the place that lays the claim to fame here, in essence. But they've got some ideas about probably all this percolating right now as we speak. But it is, I think, and Ray, you've been at rock cuts where you've helped people find them just because they were searching all around.
Yeah, the one day that I was there, we had 2 trucks from Michigan pull up. And that's a big thing in the States. Eric, the founder, the quote, Yooperlites, he does a lot of advertising on his site, and he promotes the Coldwell Complex. So there's quite a few Americans that actually travel up that want to see this amazing rock cut. So the day I was there, 2 had showed up, 2 trucks, 2 young families, and they came out and they had their flashlights. And they were down just a bit, so I called them. I said, come down this way. It's the directions right here. But again, everyone in awe when they see the rock. And every time I return, I'm thoroughly amazed too, just to know that as a child and through all the years, I went past that rock cut, not knowing what was there.
Oh, I know. The amount of times I can count, I could use all my fingers and toes and everything, and probably a whole pile of people, fingers and toes. Number of times I've gone through that rock cut on Highway 17 that they're there, and other places too, Ben. So that's the other thing that this will begin to happen, I'm sure, and people will start it's like, I think I kind of envision it that people start posting and rockhounds already have been doing this. It's like seeing the Northern Lights when they find fire rocks, they'll post it. And will it come to that scale? I have no idea, but that's what will happen. And especially if people start finding them in other places in Northern Ontario at rock cuts or pits or anywhere, beaches where there's cobbles and those kinds, and the glaciers have moved these things. That's what's going to happen.
So we've talked about Yooperlites, fire rocks, but we need to talk about. So I know this is in your article, but I want to give you maybe a little bit of an opportunity to explain where Yooperlites came from. But also, you said that they're mostly known as fire rocks here. So maybe between you and Ray, you can kind of describe maybe why they're called fire rocks or why there's like a difference in naming or anything like that.
Well, Ray's kind of explained about the discovery, but in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and the syenite and the sodalite that has to be there. So the one aspect that I've learned is it's in the absence. So some of these rocks, when you look at them, there is an absence of quartzite or quartz. So we've had this discussion. Can you identify a rock at the beach, at a cobble beach or somewhere else? And I would say, Ray, the answer is probably no.
Yeah. Well, remember when we were at the pit, we actually grabbed rocks and they all looked identical under the flashlight. And then once we applied the black light, there was only one that was a Yooperlite. So
the fire rock is a term I think we need to give credit to everywhere else in the world, because it became a worldwide phenomenon, and I'm sure people are finding them anywhere in the world where there's deposits of cyanide or sodalite, and there are other minerals and things that will glow as well. It's in the article. The geologist identifies them, and so you never know what you're going to find with that black light. And what's the it's 386, right? Is it, or 385?
No, the black light that you want to order to find these is a 365 NM. So like I tell everyone, remember 365 days in a year. You punch that in, 365 black light, and it comes up.
What's the difference between all the? I didn't even know there were different types of black lights. So what do the numbers mean?
Well, it's a frequency of the black light. So it's what it puts out. Like a normal black light, like I said, when we first found the big round one here, we were using a regular black light. So it appeared in our photographs, it appears as a purple rock with the orange. With the 365 NM, it strictly brings out the sodalite color in it, which is that fiery orange. So it's a lot more, it brings it out a lot clearer and a lot easier to find.
I learned something. Well, I always learn something new, but that was something I didn't know.
Well, that's why we have the Backroads Bill Podcast. Ben, did you have any other questions before we kind of tidy this up?
Yeah. So obviously, it's the Schreiber Discovery Center. I was getting a little tongue twister there. The Schreiber Discovery Center
and Rail Museum
and Rail Museum.
Yeah.
But outside of the Yooperlites, which is just a really cool thing to go to a place and see, and there's again you have the actual demonstration, and it reminds me when we talked to Frank with Science North, and it's like those kind of things, especially for kids. So Ray, outside of the Yooperlites, what is your favorite thing at the Discovery Center and Rail Museum that you think is just super neat?
There's so many. Like our building is unique, and like Bill had asked me the one time, he had asked me what are the top 10 items, and he says, I don't want to find out that, like not an adding machine or a typewriter. And I said to him, the typewriter. And he laughed, and I said, no, I'm serious. The typewriter, believe it or not, in our museum where we have it set up in the actual CP office, generates probably the biggest interest, because the people that use typewriters, it brings back memories. And to the kids to see this device that throws letters out onto the paper, it just amazes the kids. And like I tell the kids, that's how we used to text. And they relate with it too. So I've got a school coming in that's going to be looking at our old technology. They're going to be doing a film on old technology and how new technology has changed everything. So there's so much to see in the museum. It's got amazing response. It's very well done. Was a huge community effort. And we just broke our record 2 days ago. We've had over 4,200 visitors this summer already. And total still climbing. We still have one tour bus to come in. We also have the Lake Superior cruises that drop in too, the cruise ships. So it's a busy place.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So the cruise ships, they'll obviously get there by bus, and they get them off the ship and over to the museum, and that's a real privilege in itself, Ben, to be on that kind of tour. In the video, and Ray, I want you to describe what happened to the locomotive and the video that came out of the locomotive going off the track and the underwater, because this is a diving spot for some people on these cruise ships. But tell us about that, because that video is worthwhile sitting down and watching it.
Yeah, we have a little theater at the museum too, and it's a 13-minute video, and it touches on the wreck of the 694, which was a steam engine that went over in 1910. It hit some rocks. It went into Lake Superior, and 3 men perished. 2 were located, and the 3rd was never found. And back a few years back, some divers. We had told the story about it, and some divers came and looked for it and actually located it. And it's down in about 280 feet of water. And when you see it in the video, it's actually amazing to see something that's, over 100 years old in the condition it is underwater.
Yeah, no, and it's in the video from, the footage was taken clear as a bell and tells a really neat story. And I think... Ray, just to kind of sum up here, Ben, I told you this was going to be an illuminating podcast, and it has been. And Ray, we really thank you for being on the Backroads Bill Podcast. Tell us about the Fire Rocks and, the Discovery Center and Railway Museum. And it's one of those things in Northern Ontario that you must stop and see for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Ray.
No problem. I hope we've enlightened you.
A big thank you to Ray for coming on the podcast. My favorite part of science is seeing it in action. And this was such a neat thing that I personally never heard of before until Bill brought it up to me. And, I'd imagine like most of you listening now, I'm always learning something new. And this episode was not an exception. It was really a neat episode to see. The demonstration was really cool. Again, if you're an audio listener, I highly suggest checking out the video version on the North Bay Echo YouTube channel or on our socials, where you can find a clip that will be dropping. If you're listening to this Wednesday morning, dropping later this afternoon. And if you're listening to this after the Wednesday it comes out, well, it's already out. You can go check out our socials to see what's going on. Speaking of our socials and everything else, if you like this episode and you want more, you can see new episodes of the Backroads Bill Podcast every single Wednesday morning on your favorite podcast player. The audio version is available, as I said, on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. The video version is on the North Bay Echo YouTube channel. And always, everything we have is available on northbayecho.ca. So that wraps things up for us here. Join us again next week for yet another Backroads adventure.